you remember the old board game Chutes and Ladders?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I still play it with my son.
It's fun. It's so fun. But the thing about Chutes and Ladders, right, is that you can go up the ladder and, you slide right back down. And when you get out of sequence in business, we see exactly the same thing. In some cases, people try a very advanced tactic and it just flat out doesn't work. But I would say, Sherry, even more dangerous than that is for somebody who tries the advanced tactic in the absence of foundation, and it does work because it's fool's gold. Mm-hmm. It will work for a period of time, and without the foundation, eventually it will break, and then you're left with nothing.
Welcome to this episode of Influence Unlocked. Today, I've got an amazing guest with me today. This is Ryan Lang. He's the CEO of Empire Partners. And Ryan, I'm so excited to have you on my show today.
Sherry, this is going to be a lot of fun. Ready to dig in.
This is cool. Okay, I was on your show, Path to Mastery.
Yep.
Right? You have an amazing podcast. You're doing a lot of great things. Let's talk about your empire because you're crushing it.
Thank you.
How'd you get started?
So I'll give you kind of Cliff's Notes version of how we got to where we are now. I kind of got into, I was an athlete growing up, and
what'd you play?
Several sports, baseball, basketball, golf, tennis.
Nice. Okay.
Dabbled in football. And when I got out of high school, I went to school as a broadcast journalist, and didn't finish initially, came back and got a job as a personal trainer and stuff like that. Fast forward, I spent a few years in sports radio, almost 5 years in sports radio, working for, teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, New York Yankees. Did a lot of stuff with ESPN and things of that nature, and then kind of had a really unexpected opportunity to dive into the business world. And that kind of evolved into a 15-year career in oil and gas. I helped to found and build an 8-figure company in oil and gas, and had an amazing ride, but pretty much got to a point in my life where my girls, my two daughters, Kendall and Addison, were 1 and 3 years old. I was traveling 75 to 80% of the time. My marriage to my current, thank God, God bless her, amazing wife, Dawn, was a hot mess because of me. And everything was kind of melting down around me. I'd spent a long time chasing a buck. I caught a lot of them. I had a point where I had to make a choice. Robert Frost, two roads diverged in the yellow wood.
Yeah.
I basically said, look, I've got to find something different. I've got to do something different. I don't know what I'm going to do. And when I left my partnership, I spent about a year kind of screwing around, trying to figure it out. And I kept coming back to the fact that I wanted to make an impact on people. I cared about people, but I had really spent a long time serving myself. And I wanted to do something to help people. And the lowest hanging fruit for me at that time was, okay, wait a minute. You know what? I could go back to health and fitness, something that I had been passionate about. It would be helping people. And I had a new story to tell because I had gotten very deconditioned during my time in oil and gas. And when I quit, I was like, well, I feel like a hot mess. The first thing I know how to do is to get my ass back in shape. And so that was kind of my entry into the coaching world, into a totally new universe. And it was through, many trials, through completely failing at building a coaching business because I had no friggin' idea what I was doing, where I really kind of ended up helping other people with high ticket sales. I've been selling something since I was about 15 years old. I ended up finding a niche in that. I ended up coaching people in high ticket sales very unexpectedly. And that's where I met my partner, Brooke. And he and I found that we had very similar thoughts on what we saw in the coaching world in terms of what was available to people, how they were being helped, and what they were missing. And we were seeing it. We met consulting an 8-figure, $50 million company. We saw it inside of companies that big, and we saw it inside of businesses being run by a solo coach, or a small team. And that was really what got us to a point where we decided we wanted to found Empire, because we saw a lot of people who are heart-centered and impact-driven, who are great at what they did, who just hadn't been taught how to run a business. And that's what we do. That's what we specialize in is taking people who are fantastic at what they do and teaching them how to build profitable, scalable businesses.
That's so huge because there's like, you can't go to school for that. I mean, I studied business and entrepreneurship in college and gosh, I didn't learn anything about what to really do. My goodness.
Yeah.
What was the very first thing you sold when you were 15? You remember?
Oh, yeah. So the very first job I ever had, actually not a job, entrepreneur. I was born in Colorado, south of Denver in Aurora, and we moved to Tampa when I was about 8. But we would come back to Colorado in the summertime, and I kind of grew up before Vail was really Vail. You know, I grew up in the Vail Valley in the summertime, and my friends and I, we had a townhouses right on the Eagle Vale golf course. And my friends and I would go out and we'd go golf ball hunting every night during the summer at about 7:00. Everybody's done playing golf and we'd go find all the golf balls, you know, that they lost. And we would then, you know, prop up on, you know, we'd switch holes up, you know.
You're selling golf balls?
Hell yeah.
That's
We'd prop
awesome.
up a little store. We'd get all the golf balls. We'd bring them back. We would clean them up. We had egg cartons that we would take out with the golf balls.
That is
and
awesome.
we would sell the golfers back their golf balls.
Hey, and I bet you they totally bought it, right? I mean, of course.
We crushed it.
Yeah.
I mean, we could easily make a couple $100 in a few hours.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. I love entrepreneurs. I just love the ideas they come up with. It brought me all the way back to golf courses. I lived in Hawaii, and for extra credit, my biology class needed to dissect frogs, and I could go to the golf course, catch frogs, put them in a bucket, and bring them to school.
I love it.
I just love entrepreneurs. Okay, so now you're helping people build and scale their bigger businesses.
Yes.
What are some of the gaps that you're seeing people missing where you're helping them solve that?
Great question. So I think one of the things right out of the gates is that people get out of sequence. And I think one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn when I first got into coaching, I was such a fish out of water. I almost feel like I forgot all of the things that made me successful in the previous business because this was so different. And I got to a point where I was like, God, I just want something. I just want something that is going to make this work right now, you know? And so, of course, at that time, we're talking like 2016, you know, it's not terribly different than today. Like there's another shiny object marketing tactic that you can go buy, or another mastermind that's going to teach you, you know, the one way and all the things. And I kept looking for the magic bullet. And today, one of my biggest passions is to help people avoid that fate, because we get into business being good at something or having an idea or solving a problem. And then we have to survive, and we have to market, and we have to get it in front of people, and we have to sell it. And I think that people get impatient, and what they do oftentimes is they don't recognize where they are in the sequence of business. If you just started, but you're going and grabbing a tactic that's way more advanced in the absence of foundation, I kind of equate it to, you remember the old board game Chutes and Ladders?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I still play it with my son.
It's fun. It's so fun. But the thing about Chutes and Ladders, right, is that you can go up the ladder and, you know, you slide right back down. And when you get out of sequence in business, we see exactly the same thing. In some cases, people try a very advanced tactic and it just flat out doesn't work. But I would say, Sherry, even more dangerous than that is for somebody who tries the advanced tactic in the absence of foundation and it does work, because it's fool's gold. It will work for a period of time, and without the foundation, eventually it will break, and then you're left with nothing.
Yeah.
And you know, I remember back to my early days of coaching, and I was in a couple of masterminds with people who were, you know, they had 7, in some cases like 8-figure businesses, and I thought, oh my God, I just want to be like that. Like I want to do that, you know. And a few years later, you know, many of them were gone, broke, businesses dead. Today, very few of them are doing what they were doing then, because they didn't know any better. They were latched into the tactic, it broke, and they didn't know what the hell to do.
Yeah. Wow. So what guidance, because all right, sales is one of those things where you watch Shark Tank, and of course, no matter how good your business idea is or the product or the widget, they always want to know, what are your sales, right? So sales is a key piece of it, but there's a lot more than that that goes into being able to build and scale a company. What would you say are the steps that someone would need to take?
Well, I would say first things first. Number one, I mean, clearly you have to have something that is going to solve a problem for people. And it's either got to be something that, hasn't existed, or you've got to be solving it in your unique way. And you have to be able to clearly enunciate that. In the world of somebody who's selling services like, coaching or expertise, or even as a practitioner, a lot of times you really have to have some sort of an irresistible offer at the end of the day, right? As Alex Hormozi says, it's, somebody, they need to feel stupid saying no, right?
Yeah.
That's got to exist. In the absence of that, you can be great at sales. You can't sell a shitty product.
Yeah.
So that's number one. But then, and I love this in the context of your show and what we're talking about today, because it really, to me, becomes about influence. I just wish that people would get more passionate about having conversations with other people. And, Brooke and I talk about this in the context of trying to get people's brains wrapped around this, because they go, well, wait a minute. Okay, so that means I need to have sales calls. Well, yeah, and how many people are you talking to every single day? How many people are you reaching out to and just going into your phone and going, hey, Sherry, you know what? It's been a bit. I just wanted to drop you a quick line, give you a big hug through the phone, tell you I'm thinking about you. And, I hope things are well with you and your son. Let's make sure we catch up soon. Drop me a voice note. Let me know what's going on in your world. When was the last time that you did that?
Yeah.
And I feel like foundationally as a business owner, you better be having conversations. And some of them, yes, are going to be direct, but some of them are going to be indirect in the context of sales. Because we talk all the time, we hear a lot of this bullshit about like, oh, you need to, you need to call everybody in your phone and tell them what you're doing and ask them if they want to participate. How about you just connect with the people that you care about?
Yeah.
And have genuine conversation and show interest in them. My guess is that before too long, they're going to go, hey, Sherry, what are you up to? What's this bank thing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? At which point it makes it so much easier to share it. And they're so much more apt to go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I know people, and I say that, Brooke and I have built our business. We went 3 years or so before we ever ran any kind of a paid ad, to our business. It was purely built, on connection and relationships. And
so powerful.
Yeah. I just wish people would do more of that. Those are two of the biggies.
Well, you are the essence of what we talk about, influence and really making people matter. And that's the undertone of what makes you so awesome. So we're going to do a fun little exercise,
All right? I'm ready.
The bank code. Now, I want you to crack your code. And what was your first impression when you first saw the bank system?
My first impression when I saw the bank system was, holy crap, I can't believe this is this easy. That was honestly my first impression.
Yeah.
Because we're very rooted in wanting to understand other human beings and things of that nature. And so, Brooke and I both have been through all the different personality assessments and all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, let me saddle up and get ready for this thing. And then it was over. And I'm like, oh, wait.
That's it.
Hold on.
There's no 20 questions.
No.
45 minutes.
No. And that, I mean, here's the thing. I think that I think that a lot of times, one thing I think is an important nuance for all of us to understand is that, understanding someone's personality and understanding a human, like you can go as academic as you want. You can go way off in the weeds and 100 questions. And I know people who go, well, wait, one assessment isn't even enough. We've got to have this combination of these 4 assessments that takes you 6 hours to complete. Listen, at the end of the day, I want the outcome.
Yeah.
I want the outcome, which is I want to be able to really understand somebody, what influences them, and how I can better connect with them. And I mean, I just loved how quickly I could get to that. That was amazing.
So, okay, you're an avid disc user. Like you have been using disc, right?
Yes.
And obviously you're going to compare bank to disc in your experience.
Yeah.
What was that impression as you were comparing it in your mind? Bank was quick.
Yes.
Was there any other connection or correlation or difference that you're like, wow, that was a cool angle?
Well, so I'll just tell you what I really, really loved when you broke this down for me. Knowing disc as well as I did, in my head, as you're explaining each card, I'm like, But it happened so fast. And I think what I appreciate about that is the ability to take all of these different things without, that are available, these values that are available on these cards, and break it down into a similar understanding. I think this is one of the nuances to me, is that with disc, you still need several questions to land in a very similar place. And I really love that as a nuance. I think the other thing is too, well, I would say that we're somewhat unique. To your point that you made to me, you made a really important distinction, which is that personality assessments are typically learning about yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And we oftentimes, yes, we want to learn about ourselves, but we want to learn about other people. And I think what I love the most about this is that it's rooted in learning about other people.
Yeah.
And that skips a step for me, because as a coach, as a teacher of human psychology and influence and things of that nature, I've got to actually tell somebody, hey, I don't just want you to take the test, but now I've got to actually teach you this whole methodology about how you're going to understand other people as well. I just felt that you got there faster. And to me, I come from kind of the Bruce Lee philosophy of like, if I'm in the middle of a fight, I don't need a form karate kick. If I got to bite you, I'll do that. Right.
Yeah.
And in this case, that to me is like, hey, we don't need to stand on dogma. We need to know what works.
Yes.
And I just love this, the speed that got me to a very similar place.
Awesome. So, okay, tell me the first part of your code.
Okay. So first part of my code is definitely action.
All right. So that's why you love the speed. Like, hurry up. Let's get to the punchline. What are the results?
Yep.
Next one.
Yep. Next one is going to be values, nurturing rather.
Okay. Yeah. Nurturing. So this is where that your heart kicks in and says, look, I want to go out there and crush it, but I need to do it in an ethical way, an impactful way. And I don't want to dissolve my family relationships in the pursuit of just success and crushing it. So you made critical decisions at a very important time in your life that mattered and saved that relationship.
Yep.
Next.
Okay. Next is going to be blueprint.
Okay. Blueprint. So the third part of your code gets triggered under stress, which is probably how it shows up for you in business is when you start to get stressed, you start to look at the fundamentals, the operations, the SOPs, the dotting of the I's, the crossing of the T's. How do you organize and streamline everything? Which is why you told me earlier, like, businesses get in trouble when they skip steps.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then the last one you're sequencing automatically is the knowledge piece of it, which means you don't need to know everything for you to take action and start to make things happen.
Yes.
So less than 90 seconds, I have a window into you and how you operate, which is super powerful. And then knowing it back, the second part of emotional intelligence is, part one is, do you understand yourself and can you self-regulate based on knowing your code?
Yep.
And moments to shift into other parts of your code, like when your wife or your daughters are interacting with you, maybe you shouldn't be in your action. Maybe you should shift based on their code.
Yep.
Which is part two. Do you have the awareness of who they are and how you need to adapt to meet them where they're at?
Yep.
Right. So when you do this with customers and business partners, you have the outcome that saves a lot of time. Same thing in the home.
Yes.
Now you are an expert working with sales teams. I mean, you have special forces sales teams and you work with some of the big dogs that are out there. You want to talk a little bit about it, what you guys are doing and
Absolutely. So, Brooke and I have been fortunate enough to work with sales teams in for big organizations like Tony Robbins, or in personal development world with, Brand Builders Group with Brian Buffini. And at the end of the day, one of the things that we've seen that's been very interesting most recently is a lot of people, it's one thing to have to learn to master your own sales. We have a great sales mastery program called Close Everyone that teaches you how to do exactly that. If you're at the foundation of building your business, I would say do that first. But there are a lot of people that are now building businesses where they're using different marketing tactics, one of which that's working really well, which I love because I think it's timeless, are events. It's another way of building trust and authority within a short window of time. And some of them are online, some of them are in person. But one of the problems that we've seen with events is that what do you do as a business owner if you're going to increase volume in a short window of time? I've got, enough sales calls regularly to have one salesperson around every now and again. Well, what happens if all of a sudden over the span of a weekend, I'm going to have 40, 50 sales calls, Well, now as a business owner, I have to try to go out and hire salespeople. Most business owners are not experts at that, by the way. And by the way, you weren't taught to be. And then you got to train them, and then you just hope that they don't screw anything up in the process. And then what in the world do you do with them when it's over? And this was actually born out of accident. Where one of our consulting clients came to us and said, "Hey, look, I'm running this event, and I've got one salesperson, and I think I'm probably going to have 50, 60 sales calls on the backside of this event based on our ad spend. Could you guys help me cobble together a sales team?" And we went, "Okay, we'll give that a shot." And we put together a team of people, and this is really the important nuance, Sherry. We put together a team of people that we have trained, that have worked for us, that we have led on sales teams, that that we trust. And they had about 90 minutes with the business owner before they ever jumped on a sales call. We did 30-minute sales calls. At the end of the day, for this offer, and it was a high ticket offer, it was a 10K plus offer. We converted at 60 to 70% on the back end of this deal. And the best part for the business owner was that they got the outcome they wanted. And then when it was over, it was just, all they got to do is pay the commissions and it's finished.
Yeah.
So that's part of what we're doing right now. We're really excited about it. And we call it Special Forces Sales Team.
Yeah, I love it. Coming from a military background, Special Forces is like the top of the top.
Uh-huh.
Now, do you think there's a place for bank to fit into the idea of these special forces sales? Do you think that is a relevant piece of what would help your guys close more or close faster? What do you think?
No question. I'm excited to talk more because I think that it to us, and this applies not just to special forces, but the way that we teach sales, when you and I had a chance to kind of geek out before we, jumped on camera, I think that I can teach anybody the right sales structure. And yeah, that's a part of it. Like, if you're baking a cake, and you put the frosting in before the flour, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, the best sales structure is never going to win at the level that it should in the absence of understanding the connection and the human component to it.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually really excited about it because I'm anxious to explore what the combination of our structure could do with the speed with which you can teach that connection piece with bank.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Like I was speaking at a big conference. I was selling a couple $1,000 workshop from stage. Yeah. Okay. The guy comes up to me pretty cocky and arrogant at the end at the back sales table. And he's like, "Why should I buy your program?" He said, "I'm already a great closer." I'm like, "Well, awesome. High five." Like I could tell he was the action type right off the bat. Right. And he's like, "Yeah, I close 80% of my sales." And I'm like, "That's fantastic. Great job." And he's always looking at me and he's like, "Well, so why should I buy your program?" And I said, "Depends on what the other 20% is worth." He's like, "You got me," And he sat down, pulled out his credit card, came through the bank training. But the cool part was 6 months later, he called me up and said, "Hey, Sherry, it's so-and-so. Do you remember me?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I'd like for you to come speak at my conference." And I'm like, I guess it worked, right? And he's like, "Well, not only did it work, and it took my close rate from 80% to 90%. He's like, "That's not what impressed me the most. What impressed me the most was you cut my sales time in half."
Huge.
So the speed to getting a yes, and I later learned a formula called sales velocity, is if you can actually not only get the yes, but get it in less and less time, shortening the sales cycle, it creates the hockey stick growth that goes like that. And that's how I took my income from 72,000 to $500,000 to over $1 million, was the speed of getting a yes, that momentum that starts to kick in.
Yes.
You know, if you could just have one and done, one sales call, close the deal, versus I have to follow up 3, 4, 5. Or what traditional sales training says the average person buys between 5 and 12 exposures. Are you out of your crazy mind? Like, who has time for that in this world? Like, no way.
Yeah.
You know, give me the code and here's the formula on how to close.
Yes.
Game changer.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that, when we talk about going back to what makes successful business at the end of the day, this is a game changer, because in the early part, a lot of times it's death by 1,000 cuts, and you're not looking, how many follow-ups you have to close a deal is not showing up on your KPI sheet.
Right.
Right. But it's influencing things at the end of the day. And especially in the early stages of business, I mean, we've got two sides of this. If you're the founder doing your own sales, how much you're wearing all the hats at the beginning, right? And so if I don't have to follow up with somebody 5 or 6 times to get a deal done, and I can close it on the first or second conversation, I mean, well, now all of a sudden I just got back half my time that I'm putting into that. What else can I put that into?
Exactly.
Right?
And this is where you can start to have a life that's more meaning. Like prior to having kids, I filled up more of my time with work.
Yeah.
Having a kid, I have been I had a COVID baby, right? So everything shifted during that. He was born May 2020. I carried, I was almost 48 years old, if you can believe that. Like, okay. But I intentionally build my life so that I make time for him and time off and family vacations, where sometimes the entrepreneur in me is like, God, before this, I would work more. I would work into the 6 p.m. and then we go out for dinner and it's just a normal day. I'm leaving my work. I start at 10 a.m. and I leave by 3 p.m. and I'm picking them up and taking them to jujitsu. And there's part of me that's like, yikes, I work way less than I used to. But if you can actually close more and convert more, you get that luxury and you have that life.
Yes.
And being married and having a couple of kids, it's critical, because I see entrepreneurs working so much harder than they need to, and they're sacrificing the essence of life itself in the process. So
I couldn't agree more. And I'll also just say too that in the context of a team, when you get your first salesperson, or you've got a couple of salespeople, one of the things that I always felt like it was a responsibility of mine, and I actually look at it equally as much as I want to impact people who are my customers and my clients, and even people who just consume content and things of that nature. I've always felt a responsibility to provide a place for people to come and work that was inspirational, that made their lives better, that made the lives of their families better. And one of the reasons that I really love what you're doing in cutting down, the time of a sales cycle is that, well, what if imagine for a moment that your salesperson could make the same amount in half the time.
Yeah.
Or double the sales in the same amount of time.
That's right.
I mean, that changes their lives. That changes the amount of time that they get to spend with their kids. And in addition to that, it also puts you in a position where you don't have to grind as hard.
That's right.
I think I want to ask you a question really quickly. I actually think that in the context of sales, one of the biggest mistakes people make is feeling like, they got to grind it out, like it's a forceful thing. Like, I love to tell me why. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, the only reason you have to grind is if, in my opinion, you don't know the code. We hear the saying, work smarter, not harder.
Right.
And nobody can freaking tell you what to do, which the sales world is ridden with bad, toxic advice, but it's the only advice that we are ever given, which is sales is a numbers game.
Yep.
In order to get more yeses, you have to get more nos. They wrote books called Go for No on it, right? Dial for dollars. All of these things that salespeople are told to do to go out and hunt and kill. It's like the Indiana Jones thing. Why don't I, you got the guy with the sword. Why don't I just pull out my gun and go bang? What's your code?
I love that scene.
Right? And, and that's exactly how this works. So we're going to do a lot together. I appreciate you being on my show. Tell our audience, how can they get a hold of you if they want to know more about you and how to potentially work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, if you're a business owner and you want to understand a little bit more about where your business is at right now and what the biggest constraint is, just go to empirepartners.io/quiz and you can take the Path to Mastery assessment. That assessment is going to easily and quickly tell you exactly where you're at right now and what you need to do to get to the next level. If you want to connect with me, best place for me is actually on LinkedIn. You can find me, Ryan Lang, CEO of Empire Partners on LinkedIn, also on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for being on our show. More to come. And friend, thank you for watching our episode of Influence Unlocked. This was Ryan Lang, and I'm so excited that you were here. Listen, I'd love to invite you to crack your code. Do that for yourself. Get the understanding of yourself, but more importantly, come to one of our master classes. I've made it totally free so that you can learn how to connect, how to communicate, and how to convert. All right? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Get the message out there. Let's help a lot more people, make people matter, and take it to the bank.